Welcome to Inside Out with Sahas and Ali. We are on episode 16. Wow. I mean, I can't even imagine that because the moment when we started, we didn't even realize that how further ahead we're going to go with this. But the thing is that, there's no looking back. And that's what we thought about this uh, podcast when we started that, what, the moment we're going to start it, we're just going to do it every single
hmm
week. And we have been consistently doing from the last 16 weeks. And for those who are joining us for the first time, we talk about mindset, mental health, challenges the belief system, and push you to ask more whys to find that genius inside of you. Yes, I said genius because you are one. And today I'm really very excited. Like you could already see that I'm standing, I'm having this conversation in a very different environment than my usual, is because today I'm with a very good buddy of mine, Arthur. And the day when I met him, I was like, bro, I got to get you on my podcast. Because like the first time that we met, and I think we already spoke for almost around 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it was all about mental health. It was all about fitness. It was all about life. It was all about the choices that you make in your life. And Arthur, I'm so glad that we finally get you to have you on our show. Thank you so much for doing this.
I appreciate it. And yeah, going back to actually when you came in for the first time with your wife, you know me, I'm like, you can cut me off whenever you like, because I'll keep talking. But right then and then I knew, I'm like, man, I'm like, this guy has something, because the way you spoke to me, and then I actually saw your page and everything, and I heard what you do. I'm like, you're very humble about your work, which is amazing, right? And that's also a good mindset to have. Let's make it go in there, right? But I am so looking forward to this conversation. You know what I mean? Because mindset these days is something that we don't talk enough about. You know what I mean? And the mindset, what is the mind? You know what I mean? That could be a first opening question. What is the mind? You know what I mean? And it's this beautiful thing that we've been given, a little bit history about the mind as well, the brain, how it has developed. You know what I mean? From where we started with a little brain, and it grew by 600% when we introduced animal fats into our diets way back, talking about when we first started, and how this thing evolved. You know what I mean? That it's the epic control center of us. You know what I mean? And then it's like, do we allow it to control us, or do we get to control it? And I think that's what we're all after. But yeah, so you know what I mean, going with your conversation and talking about mindset and everything else, what do you find the challenges are usually, like with the mind?
Well, I think everybody has their own different challenges, like with their mindset. When you talk about, like, a lot of people are struggling to even cope up with the kind of environment that we are in right now.
Yeah.
And see, it's like for some people, in any kind of an adversity, there could be an opportunity to grow. But few people, and that is the most, like you said, most percentage of population lie into the other category, which is like, oh, this is like going to the hell, and this is like the worst thing that can ever happen. Like,
Ah.
should be lockdown should be there. There are no safeties. There's no nothing. And but there are other side of people who are like, I don't give a fuck about whatever is happening. I got to double down the shit that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
mindset is like it's so like on a different like there are so many things to talk about it. What are your thoughts onto this one?
Well, what you said is amazing, because I believe that once you're, the whole thing, even like with like religion, and everybody's like enlightened, and they feel like they kind of found what their purpose is in life and everything else. You know what I mean? They kind of all say the same thing, and that's what I'm after as well. It's about letting go of the ego. You know what I mean? You refer me to a good book too as well. I've read his other book as well, which is amazing, The Power of Now, right?
Mhm.
But the whole brain is just there. And do we allow it to control you, or do we, like I said earlier, do we actually learn how to control it? And when there's a situation, it doesn't matter what it is, what you've been gifted, what family you've been born into, and everything else. It is necessary at the end of the day. It's your choice on which direction you want to take with any kind of circumstance. So what you said is amazing, because yeah, there could be something that's presented in front of us. Doesn't matter what it is, but how do you choose to proceed? Are you gonna allow it to destroy you, or are you gonna gain another pathway or another direction that you can go in? You know what I mean? But then you need a healthy brain. So
Right.
the part of a healthy brain is that we're all kind of missing the whole mindset about everything. I'm just like, yeah, we can program our brain, we can have goals, gratitude. Those are the normal things that we all need to have and be to reconnected with this planet. But at the end of the day, how is this thing going to take me where I need to go? And a lot of people, what they forget is about the health of the brain. We at first we should start talking about what the brain is and and what it actually needs to kind of thrive, right? That would allow you to make the right
Right.
decisions. Because sometimes, Ali, let's bring you in here. By the way, welcome. Thank you for having me on your guys' show. You know what I mean? But the brain, it's like, if it's not healthy, you're going to be easily mind controlled and manipulated. And if it's not functioning properly, then you might miss the cues in life where you can start to be like, okay, wait a minute, let's move back a little few steps. Let's analyze this, and how do I pick the right path? Because sometimes we kind of fall into this whole, I'm going to copy everybody else, and the system. You know what I mean? The system is this whole beautiful planet that we're on. It's evolved in a kind of way where it kind of moves us, and there's good and bad, obviously. You know what I mean? The good and the evil in this world. And sometimes you are the one that's being manipulated and controlled. And if your brain is not strong enough, your mindset is going to be very weak. And that's where the whole problem comes into. People that give up on themselves, give up on their dreams. They don't follow through with their paths. You know what I mean? Even what you guys are doing today, that took a mindset to get there. You know what I mean? But it required so many other things to be actually
Action.
true. You know what I mean? So yeah. What are you saying?
Action.
Sorry, I cut out.
Right.
Yeah. I said action. Like, a lot of things can be, you want to do a lot of things, but everything for anything to get accomplished, you have to take an action, no matter wherever your mindset is. But then again, you have to have a mindset of, growth. You have to have a mindset of, making one step at a time. Taking that step itself is like, the first thing that you could ever do in the. Before we get into further conversation about this mindset, and I really love this topic, Arthur, could you give us like your background about like where do you come from, and
Oh yeah,
how did
thank you.
you have this kind of a mindset that you have right now? What was
Thank
the
you.
story of that?
Yes, I might be sweating a little bit right now because the light's very hot. That's why I keep wiping my head. Man, I didn't think it was gonna be so hot from this light. But yeah, so you know what? I am from Europe originally, born in Poland, and my dad played semi-pro soccer out in Europe. Then I lived in Germany for 3 years, and then I came to Canada at 7 years old in 1990. And my background is kind of why I said that history is because I came from another origin in this from another continent, pretty much another whole different side of a different planet. Came here and had to adapt into this new atmosphere. So that was my first. That would probably be one of my hardest challenges now that I look back at life, because I came to a country and never spoke the language. You feel like you don't fit in, and that's where the whole mindset would have to already begin right then and then, right? Either you adapt and you fill in those gaps, or you kind of fall apart. And I fell apart. So I became obese. So I started eating. I never fit into the system. I got picked on a lot. I didn't speak the language. Probably a lot of people can kind of probably relate to this. You know what I mean? It just, a lot of people have a hard time talking about it. I didn't talk about this until more recently. Thank God for these podcasts and stuff, right? Because I think people need to hear, so that maybe they can relate. And so my path kind of came here, got overweight, severely overweight. I was at 220 pounds, and I'm only 5'5".
Wow.
So I was 80 to 70 pounds overweight on a small frame. That's a lot of weight. Ended up in the hospital at the age of 20. You know what I mean? Because I thought I had a heart attack that day. I forgot the actual month and day, but it happened when I was 20. And basically I went to the hospital, and they said you didn't have a heart attack. You had severe heart palpitations, and that you need to fix your health. Right. And boom, talk about mindset. Within a day, I switched my whole mindset. I'm like, I stopped feeling sorry for myself, because leading up to that, something to touch back on, getting picked on, not getting invited to groups, never get last kid always picked on the hockey team or soccer team when you're playing with the kids. Couldn't get a girlfriend. You have a limited amount of friends. You have the self-worth, the mindset that was going through back then. It's like, I'm not worthy enough because you're not accepted by your peers, right? And then you choose the wrong paths, you eat the wrong foods. And that's the hard part. I was stuck in that zone for 13 years in that brutal mindset. I'm going to keep always referring to the mindset, because this is exactly what we're talking about. And that mental state that I was in was horrible. You know what I mean? you feel not loved, you feel not appreciated, you feel like you don't belong. And it's this weirdest feeling, right? And there lies the choice. Do I fix this? Do I be like, okay, well, what do I do? So I did what I did. I never hung out with anybody much. I played a little bit of sports here and there. But at the end of the day, I got a lot of time to self-reflect and develop, where everybody else was kind of being brainwashed, which we all are, because we're like in this matrix. You know what I mean? It's pretty much a video game, and it's not even reality, because there's a lot of stuff until you put yourself out and you can be grateful for just being alive in the moment. You will never truly be able to be satisfied. You know what I mean? And I don't know that a lot of people get to do that in their lifetime. So in a time that I never got fitted in, I started studying this thing right here, and started researching, starting learning about food, my relationship to food. Earlier I said about nutrition, you know what I mean, how to kind of fix oneself. Because if you can have the best mindset, you can write your goals every day for the next 10 years if you want, affirmations, and put everything into play. But if your brain is unhealthy and it's not functioning, and you just don't have the drive, then you're never going to accomplish those things. Those are the things that you have to do in the moment. And I did all those things, right? I set my goal plans. I programmed this thing, the brain. I went through certain certain activities for a year or two, and I achieved what I want to achieve. And then so through my 20s, I became a trainer, and I started learning about the human body and everything else, because I believe this temple that we have, which is our body, which is keeping us all encapsulated, our soul, you know what I mean, is the machine. And there's a lot of moving parts to it. Everything from your energy levels, the way you can recover from things, the way you appreciate yourself once you fully, truly love yourself. You know what I mean? You really have to be healthy up here, but you can't do that if you don't learn about the other things. Because everybody just thinks, everybody has to check their ego, I think, too, as well, because the ego is a killer of dreams. Because sometimes you just don't achieve what you could achieve if you just understood where we come from. And from history, we're tribal, we're unified people, and we work well together. But there's a big divide in today's world. And I believe the further we go away from how we were genetically copied from 3.2 million years ago, the further we're going to be more sicker up here, where a lot of people are going to deal with other problems, anxiety, depression, not being worthy of oneself, and not being happy with oneself, because we are truly stepping away further and further and further away from what Mother Nature had intended for us. Yeah. So going, just to kind of recap everything, I came to a country, you go through these steps where you don't belong, and you do all these things to kind of try to fix yourself. And I did all those little things just to improve myself, and I had the time to do. Then I opened this store, a supplement store, you know what I mean, with an amazing business partner, Lori Brown. She passed away 2 years ago from cancer, but I had the opportunity to open the store with her and learn more about the field, the supplements. And that's when it all kind of really began. She's a nurse practitioner, and she always knew, the biology of the human body, right? And I'm like, okay, I need to start studying doctors. So that day, I think I was about 31 years old. Now I'm 37. I started reading books, all from literature from doctors, and then learning about the body. So that kind of like sums up everything to this day, where I come from and what my path is. You know what I mean? And that's why I think we get along so well. Because when you came in the store and you started talking to me, it was just an amazing experience, because your knowledge, I think you went through something yourself as well, right, Saj?
Yes.
Yeah. And I related to you. We had a great conversation. I related to you because I think you went through some similar things in your past, where you didn't fit in. You got, things that troubled you, yeah, right? Absolutely. And the battle is, you never know when it's going to happen. But at one day in time, when you finally win this brain over, you get to change your path. And that's when you can start fulfilling the things the way you set your mind to. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my back end story. Got into fitness, tried a couple of shows. I went on stage a few times. That's nice. Yeah, that's a whole nother project. That's mindset at its finest, because this thing kicks your ass every single time. You always want to give up, but you have to push yourself through, right? But I encompassed all of this stuff to be able to apply to myself, and then so I could share it with all of us. You know what I mean? Because the stuff that I've learned, I didn't create it. I experienced it, because I believe that you have to try things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in that sense, it allowed me to explore this earth. And I believe that we should all pay attention and be more kind to one another and work more in unity, because we have a lot to learn from each other. And there's only one way to do it, right? And that's being inclusive and not allowing ego to run your world. Because once that happens, it's game over. So
that's awesome, Arthur. I do want to get into a quick question regarding this journey. That is an amazing journey, by the way. But you mentioned that you did some activities in between to really sharpen your mindset. Could you give some specifics? Like, I know you talked about goal setting. And you talked about working out, but were there any specific things you started implementing that you saw an increased improvement in your mindset?
So what that question is is such a beautiful question to me, and it holds a huge part of my heart, because that's when my life changed. So my first time I did it, and I didn't learn about it, I just did it on my own. Just if you pay attention to yourself, all the answers are there. It's just we have too much noise, which doesn't allow us to think of things. So when I was obese, but this is not the answer I want to give you, but it's just a little pre.
Right.
First, when I was obese, the first thing that for me was, at one point in time, I knew that I didn't want to be that person. And I just literally knew that I had to set it up in my brain. Whereas like at one certain point in time in life, I'm going to change myself. I didn't know when it was going to happen. I did kind of set myself a timeline. I knew past 20, I didn't want to be like that. And at 20, my accident happened where I ended up in the hospital. And that was my trigger. But everything else after that is the real answer. And along the path, everybody from like the Tony Robbins and everybody else that's out there, motivational speakers, you start hearing a little bits and pieces there. But the real thing is to reprogram this. Once this got healthy by proper sleep, nutrition, everything was good to go. The real thing was programming this brain. And this is where it got me to the next level. So I did an exercise. It takes 100 days. And this is how it works. If in any day, it could be day 98. And if you fail, you have to restart back at zero. So I failed 3 times. I failed 3 times. And it's not a fail. I just wasn't consistent. So this is what I did. I woke up in the morning and I did my affirmations pretty much.
Which all dates did you miss out? Like you had to go back again. Like, was it in the first 10 days, 10 days?
Yeah, it's good. I like that. Okay. So the first time it happened, I went, I think it was about 31 days. The first time, 31 days. The second time it was only like 52. And then I did a little hack. So I'm like, you know what? And I'll tell you why. I'm like, man, I'm messing this up, but I need to finish this. And I wanted to finish it. So my mindset was to finish it. But then I programmed my cell phone so that it gave me warnings every day. So I had to finish my little activity.
Nice.
So basically I had to kind of, I acknowledged that I was doing something wrong and I knew where I wanted to be. So then I had to take some sort of action. And that action was to, okay, well, you know what? It's not cheating. I'm just going to remind myself every day that I have to do this. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to do it. So every day I woke up in the morning and I finally, on 3rd try, I did it. Woke up in the morning every day for 100 days straight. And I told myself who I am and what my purpose in life is every day. It was the same thing over and over again, pretty much like I'm talking to my own brain. I'm reprogramming myself. I had to give myself action and I had to give myself a path to go to because I was kind of lost, I lost the weight. I was all over the place, right? Number 2 is gratitude. We hear gratitude all the time, be grateful for everything. And being grateful is the right thing to do because we seem to forget that, being just alive and to be able not to be able to be sick and have sitting in front of this right now, communicating with each other, where another person in the world might have to walk 3 hours in their bare feet to see their relative or their friend. You know what I mean? So I'm grateful for everything. But I wasn't grateful.
Whatever you just saying like about this particular thing about some person out there in the other part of the world. Actually, we had somebody in our podcast, and he told He literally had to go when he was in Jamaica. He
Yeah.
literally had to go 15 kilometers one way, bring water, I think, something like that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then come back again. I mean, this
And
is
that's their job. And that's pretty much their job. And their job is to survive. You know what I mean?
Right.
So so the gratitude part is like, we have all these things at our fingertips, you know what I mean? But we're just not even grateful for it. So being grateful for the simple things like having a family, having a friend, uh, having water. So in my example, I used water. So every day to hit my gratitude goals, every time I touched water, I drank water, I brushed my teeth, I looked at water, I saw water. I had to say in my own mind, I didn't have to say it out loud. I said, thank you for this water. This is calming me down. Thank you for this water. I'm hydrated. Thank you for this water. I'm brushing my teeth right now. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything. Because if you can't be thankful for that, then you will never be thankful for $1 million. You won't be thankful for $100,000. You won't be you won't be thankful for winning first place, and that's when you're never satisfied, right? So that was a big part of it. So it went in 3 stages. Every day I had to say who I am and where I want to be, who and where I'm going, right? How I can become better. Then throughout the day, I gave myself a gratefulness thing where it wasn't just in the morning when I woke up, it was all day long. And then here's the little secret: take control of your brain. So I named my brain a name.
Nice.
I named my brain a name. So I directly talk to it, because with this thing, here's everything. The subconscious is picking up everything all around us. It's picking up the song that's playing right now in the background. And I don't even know what the hell the song's called, but somehow my brain, if I had to somehow recall, I'd probably be able to pick it up, which is crazy because it's collecting all this data all day long. So then I said, okay, so then why don't I just take command of my situation versus feeling sorry for myself, and take command of my situation and be like, I named this thing as something, Saigon. That was the name of it. And I said every night, hey, brain, pretty much, wake up. I'm talking to you. This is who I want you to become.
Wow.
You see? And that was it. And I had to do that for 100 days. And it became, when I got in my 30s, all the information and all the things that I've done in the last 10 years leading up to that, and the 13 years of being overweight, all this got wrapped up into a beautiful package where I got to use my life experiences. I call myself the guinea pig, right? Because I pretty much ran tests on myself for the last 17 years. All the science that's out there, all the diets, let's just say, I applied them, I learned from them. Then I started learning about the history of humans. Great book, Sapiens by Hitari, I think, phenomenal book. That taught me a lot about Earth and the planet and who we are. You know what I mean? So we are all these people, and we have great ideas, dreamers, and we have all these things that we want to become, but we don't know how to take control of them. So I figured, if I'm being mind controlled by all my other surrounding things, all the media, all the shit they teach us in school, you know what I mean? They're not teaching us to be independent. They're teaching us to be part of a system and to work for somebody. You know what I mean? And that's what they're teaching us. They're already programming us. So I'm like, why don't I just program myself? And that was the secret. And it's not a secret. Everybody talks about it, but everybody has this thing. It's like a copy and paste formula. That's always, I hear the same thing over and over again, right? Write a board, write all your affirmations, your gratitude exercise, write a journal. That's great, but it doesn't have to be like that for everybody. So I always tell everybody, whatever way you can accomplish that goal, how to take control back of your life would be up to you. You know what I mean? And in my case, I'm more of a visual person. I didn't like keeping journals. I like to speak. I like to talk. I'm a talker. So for me, I had to kind of just make sure that I'm saying it every day. And it's like a miracle. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that maybe it was like day 102, 103, 104. I even forgot that I was even doing it, because everything was just like, it was just programmed. Because at this point in time, I just had to do the task every day. It was in the calendar. And I looked and I'm like, oh my gosh, 3 months are past. And all of a sudden, I can't remember the exact date, but all of a sudden it's like all these opportunities started, kind of like I'm making these hand movements right now. Because it's like, I looked right. I knew what I wanted, because I told my brain what I wanted. And now I wasn't missing anything. I wasn't walking around like this all day anymore. I was seeing everything. And that's because I told my brain what to look for,
I think
but if I'm,
it's like becoming
yeah,
of the Neo in the Matrix.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's a beautiful comparison. It's a beautiful comparison, because he was lost too, but when he was shown the path and he knew what to look for, then he understood what was going on. But that's essentially happening to all of us. You know, we have parents, their job is just to make sure that they take their responsibility until you become a full adult to take care of yourself. And then it's with the one, but your job is to become the best version of yourself, you know what I mean? And to be able to successfully say, hey, I lived an amazing life. I'm grateful for that. You know what I mean? Because for you to be here, for me to be here, for any of us to be here, so many little things had to happen. And how can you not be great? How can you not be grateful for that? Some people are like, oh my God, I hate my job. I'm like, but you got a job. I'm like, oh my God, I hate the way I look. I'm like, 80% of the people wish they looked like you. You know what I mean? Like, you're walking on 2 feet. You're not missing a limb. You have water in the sink. It might not be the best water, but it's drinkable water, where a person has to feed their, let's say a female somewhere in another country that is not as, you know, lucky as us here in Canada. All of a sudden they have to walk for 10 hours a day just to grab water. Like you said, the guy in Jamaica, you know what I mean? And that's one thing that we forget. And at the end of the day, to enjoy this life that we're in, you need a plan. And to make a plan, you have to be healthy. And what I mean by healthy is your brain has to be healthy. And that's why this whole thing it encompasses itself into a beautiful package where it's not just fitness. It's not just being grateful, not just being a good person. It's not just, you know, going to sleep at the right time. It's everything. And basically it's evolution. You know what I mean? It's evolution. We want to evolve into the best version of ourselves. We've only been gifted a gene copy of 2 other species, you know, given to us. And then here we are, you know what I mean? And then it's up to you how you want to kind of interpret that life. You know, do you give up on yourself? Do you find ways to win, survival mode? Do you choose to be a good person? Do you choose to be a bad person? What is this thing telling you to do, right? But you can control this thing, you know what I mean? And that's the number one thing that we don't have is control. And what I mean by that is, you know, you think you're in control, but if I've asked a lot of people and I said, hey, how's your diet and how's your lifestyle? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, but you're missing, your microbiome is probably weak. And those are the little things, the bacteria, we got 30 pounds of it living on us and in us that are actually eating the food for you and keeping you alive. We're just a machine that gets controlled by this. We're a host to all these organisms that comprise us, and our brain and our mind is just our subconscious. You know, it's just our control center. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we're not in control until you're really in control. And to be in control, that's when you need like enlightenment. You know what I mean? You got to be able to be happy with nothing, because that's everything.
Exactly.
Right. And it's hard. It's hard. I know this conversation is like, I'm talking some crazy stuff here, but it's like, this is the time that I had with myself. And I'm like, you know, when you're in a dark room and you get to meditate. And what is meditation? You know, meditation for me was just like closing my eyes and just kind of going off into my own mind, because there's a voice talking to you all day long. Even right now, your voice is talking to you while we're watching each other. You know what I mean? And there's things happening. There's a conversation going on. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we are only what we want to be. You know what I mean? And a lot of times I think we just don't know what we want to be. And we think we know, but then we might not really, really know. And I think sometimes we have to strip ourselves of everything and then rebuild ourselves from nothing to be able to realize who we really are. And I think that's a hard thing to do. You know what I mean? I've been working on this for a long time. I've been wrong many times. I'm not perfect either. I don't think none of us are. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I do know the basics, what this body needs. And this body needs certain things to function properly, right? And that's why I love nutrition so much, because I'm like, I wanted these beautiful dreams, you know, great. You know, we have dreams. I want to be this, I want to be a motivational speaker. I want to be a doctor. I want to be this, but are we actually going to get there? And then everybody's going to talk, oh, but the mindset. Yes, mindset, but are you going to be healthy enough to have the right mindset, to even have the right ideas? You know what I mean? To even be able to realize when the opportunities are in front of you. You know what I mean? Mr. Chopra over here, when he walked in for the first time, I said good vibes. I said energy. You know what I mean? Because I told myself those are the people I want to be around. I already programmed this brain a long time ago. That's where like everybody says you are who you are. You know, you're a handful of the people you are hanging out with. It's true, but you have to tell yourself who you want to become and who you want those 5 people to be. So at one point in time in my life too as well, that was another big whole mind trick on myself, because I'm like, holy shit, I have to cut myself off from all these people. Some of my best friends, they're still my best friends, but I knew that I couldn't be in those circles anymore, because that's what, if I was in those circles, that's where I'm telling my brain I want to become, and that's not what I want to become. And that's where you need to have control. And then let's all of a sudden, let's say you're mentally weak, you know. So I'm talking about this because this is a process. So like all of a sudden you're mentally weak to be able even to have that, because they're like, oh well, I feel alone, I have no friends, people don't want, you know what I mean, I feel lonely, you know what I mean, I can't get rid of these people. But in the end, it's like, do you want to grow or do you want to stay the same? And if you're happy with the same, then you can't have big dreams up here and expect the things to work out, because you're walking around like this. So sometimes you have to shave things off and to rebuild new things. And that always takes self-control as well, right? It's a great conversation. I know it was a big answer, but I loved it. That was on my mind.
So many things that you covered in this answer of yours. I mean, it's like for a lot of people, it would be a lot of information. So let me go back and break it down, because there's so many great things that you talked about. First of all,
go ahead. I love this conversation, by the way. Go ahead. I love it. You're amazing.
So the first conversation first thing that you talked about is that you named your brain.
Yeah.
I think that's really very smart. And I think that is what, that is the biggest takeaway from this conversation, because I remember that so well from what you said. And I think that is where you tame your brain and tell that, you know, this is what I want you to do, not brain control you, but you control that, you know what?
Yes.
Do it together, but this is what you got to do for me.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to help you to, you know, build, so that maybe you're not there today. So it's like, you know, mentoring your own brain at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really love that. Then
you know what? Go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead. No, you go. you know me, I talk way too much. So you got to stop me. You take over now. Let me hear you. Go ahead, bro.
So that was pretty amazing. And you also talked about that, you know, like how your body is a host, right? And I think it takes a lot of awareness to have that kind of a mindset, to even believe or just say that, you know, just say a simple word like my life and switching to I am life.
Yes, that's beautiful. Right? That's actually a beautiful slogan. I love that. I am life. Right. Well, yeah.
So, and that takes a level of awareness that, you know, what do you want to become? Who you are? Yes. Are you just so much self-consumed by the person that you are, the identity that you have, what people see you? Or you just consider that you are a host of certain, like all the elements there in the universe, and they're keeping you alive, and it's going vice versa. And you have a responsibility towards giving back in the same way, and realizing, not being egotistical about you with your identity that others see you as, or you want to be seen as, and just believing in yourself that, you know, you are life, and so is everybody, so is everywhere around you. So I think that host thing was very powerful.
Yeah.
And like about the nutrition, like, you know, you're saying that, you know, like there are things that are, you know, we are serving from within our body, and, you know, we are keeping them alive, and at the same time it's vice versa. I think, bro, like, no, I don't think so many people have had this conversation. And that is what I was talking to Ali about. Just before this conversation, I was telling, like, bro, I told him, bro, you're gonna love it.
Exactly.
Because let's break it down. Let's break it down for you. Just said, so here's how digestion works. Let's just still on topic, but whatever, right? So there's genetics, there's genes. We've been given a copy. Statistically, I think 5% of the world population is born with genes that actually, unfortunately, are either broken or don't work. The chromosome, the pattern is not the right pattern. For whatever is a genetic defect. And everybody always blames everything on genetics. Oh, I'm overweight, genetics. Oh, I'm stupid, oh, genetics. Oh, my parents, blah, blah, blah. Stop the blame game, because at the end of the day, genetics are genetics. But the epigenetics, the environment that we set up for ourselves, is the ones we're gonna be able to express. So if you're born with no problems, health problems, then there is no other problems besides you just not knowing how to control your life. You're being controlled by that point in time. So, you know what I mean? The environment that we set up for ourselves, it could be good nutrition, it could be mental, it could be whatever, it could be life. You know what I mean? If we choose to always think negative, you're inviting negativity. If you're a positive person, you're going to be positive. You know what I mean? If you invite an energy, you're going to receive it from the universe. And why I'm talking like this is because we are what we are. We're a little speck in time. We don't even exist. If you blink of an eye, we're gone, because this is how old this world's, this planet, this rock is. We've gone through 5 extinctions as well. This earth, you know, a lot of people only think of one, the dinosaurs, but I believe there's been to 5 documented. You know what I mean? And we keep rebuilding ourselves. You know what I mean? And we came from a 1-cell organism. Life started in water. You know what I mean? And then all these amazing little bacteria started eating each other and then growing and then more and more. And that's what we are. We're just we're an evolved 1-cell organism that has evolved into this creature that we are. We're an animal as well. You know what I mean? And that's the incredible part. So now if we know that, you know, if things are keeping us alive, then why the hell, you know, what are we going to do? You know, do we feed them bad things? Do we set up a bad environment? Do we feel sorry for ourselves, or do we motivate ourselves? Do we take control? Do you take control over your brain? Do you take control of your health? Now, the real secret is to take control over everything, with the ego being checked out as well, because ego is important, because it is there for a reason. It's there to challenge us. It's there to make us better. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, sometimes when it takes over, that's when we lose ourselves. So going to that, the food part, what you just touched, the last part is, you know, we eat food. We mechanically break it down with our teeth. Then the saliva helps us break it down further, so that our stomach acids, if you're a blood type O, you have really good stomach acids. If you're a blood type B, you're somewhere in the middle, A, have really weak stomach acids, right? And that's why it's important to chew food and then knowing what food to eat. Right? We used to eat what was available to us in our cultures before we became very globalized, where now we eat food from all these different types of environments and stuff that maybe our system doesn't know. You know what I mean? Because think about it, before World War I and II, even in early 1900s, we kind of lived more where we came from. It was just more recently that this whole world's been more globalized. So then we're eating this food, and we're digesting it. Not yet. It's breaking down more in our stomach. So our digestion works in 3: teeth and saliva, stomach acids, and then number 3, the little living organisms we call the microbiome, the probiotics, right? And they're in there inside you, living, and they're eating food as well. But they're the ones that are actually eating the food. You're just a mechanical machine that inhales it. They're the ones that are fermenting the food. They take the food, they ferment it. They extract and create vitamins so that they can shoot them back into your bloodstream so you can absorb them. And that's how you rebuild your body, from those vitamins. So if you don't understand that, it is very hard to understand how to optimize this machine that we've been given, and how fast you want to age. You know, I'm 37, but I feel like I'm a 20-year-old. My biological clock might be 20. But when I was younger, my biological clock maybe back then was 30 when I was only 20, because I just didn't understand the human body. And it's not that I didn't understand it, it's what was presented to me. You know what I mean? Because in reality, we're governed by a government. They're the ones that approve a lot of shit. And that's when I had to step away from the mainstream and had to start studying biology, chemistry, history, where we came from, and what's being put on our food, how is it destroying and altering us. And this is all important, because if you don't understand any of this, you will never become truly the best version of yourself. How can you? When you're constantly have brain fog, you feel worthless, you're so brainwashed and you're so weak that you have no control over yourself. You just hear everything that you hear. And those are the things that I love talking about, and that I feel really comfortable in, because I've been on a 17-year journey. I had which was set up because I never fit in with everybody. So I got time to study all this stuff. And I'm like, man, how do I optimize myself? Because in my mind, I programmed myself. This is when I didn't know what the hell was going on, but it's when I was in my teens. I'm like, I want to be that person one day that I can take off my shirt, rip it off, like we had on those TV shows. You know, when they go running through the poster and they're like, yo, that was me. You used to make fun of me, and this is me now. But that's ego, and I like that part of it, but I also have that in check. That's cool to talk about. But the real thing that caught me, it was learning and the knowledge, because a lot of people have the confusion too as well, where like they see a person, they're pretty fit, doesn't mean they're healthy. You know what I mean? No one's going to talk out loud and be like, hey, I have this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem. Everybody's going through some shit. You know what I mean? Because I just hear it from my friends, and I'm like, yo, like, you should be super happy. Like, you're eight pack, you know what I mean? You're like this thing that everybody looks at, you know, everyone wants that body. And then it's like, but they're not really happy. You know what I mean? And that's the whole thing. You can have $1 million in your bank account. You could be the top salesman in all of Toronto, all of the world, but you still might not be happy because you're still sick up here. And by sick, I mean, if you're not optimized, then you're not going to function like you're meant to function. And the reason I say that is because it's like this whole planet that we're on, it's like against us these days. And we have so much more knowledge and we have so much more things, but we've denatured ourselves and we went further and further away from nature, which is causing a really bad environment. And the reason I say that is because this environment that we're in right now is unnatural. You know, we're meant to move. We're meant to be tribal. We're meant to be in front of each other. We're meant to work as an organism like it did centuries ago. And we're getting away from that. You know what I mean? And it's super, 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 super important to go back to the ways, you know what I mean? Versus living longer and sicker, because we're just managing sickness now.
Absolutely.
Let's be healthier. Let's be inclusive, you know, have a drive, but also work with people. And that's where it leads me to good and bad. You know, this, you, me, everybody, we have it in us. Everybody has good and bad, the yin and the yang, the black and the white, the energies that are just kind of that inner voice that's controlling you and you're fighting it, right? But if you're healthy, you got a good environment, you're expressing your good genes, you're going to take the good path. If you hate yourself, if you don't enjoy the way you feel, the way you look, you're not grateful for anything, and you're constantly just materialistic, you're going to be always this way, where you're going to be looking for this. And for this, I mean, it could be anything. It could be for people just like you that love to argue, that don't love themselves, that can't see the joy and happiness of just being alive. You know what I mean? And that's the whole thing about life. It's not necessarily that we're living the right or wrong way, but what is the right way for you? You know what I mean? And that's a whole nother conversation, you know what I mean? Because who's to say that I'm living the right, you know, according to someone's eyes, the right life. But in my eyes, I'm like, I love helping people. You know what I mean? My best thing is when people come into the store, I get to go in and listen to a lot of problems. And if I know them, I try to help the person to my best abilities. And if not, I will go learn about it. You know what I mean? Because the biggest thing, that joy that we get out of life, is give back to the universe, right? Kind of, you know, give back as much as you can, and it will shower you with gifts, even if you don't want them. You know what I mean? Even if you don't want them. And it's like us talking right now, you know, your experience, you know, Ali's a phenomenal guy. I can't wait to meet him in person. You know what I mean? And with you, you know, like, you came in, and if I was a bad vibration because I didn't love myself, I didn't love to help people, I was a negative energy, you would have walked in and you would have walked out. We talked for 2 hours. I felt bad. I kept saying, I'm to your wife, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I literally say to her, I'm like, you're just gonna have to cut me off because I'll keep going. You know what I mean? But you came in, you had real questions, and I gave you some real answers, you know. And unfortunately, we don't get that in life sometimes. I feel like we're wishy-washy with each other. You know what I mean? Because our ego is winning the battle, because it's like, I don't want to tell this person some information because it might jump them to another level. But if you can connect yourself with real people and real energies that are just like you, I believe we all, as a team, as a group of people, we can do more good for this planet. And then you're fully satisfied. It's this amazing thing. And now you switched. Now you're achieving things. You're connecting. You're hitting your goals. And this bad shit over here is kind of being left behind you. And before you know it, you're going to blink your eyes. You're going to wake up one day and be like, holy shit, what is going on? And that's what happened for me. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, things are just falling into place. But I had to be happy with myself. Until I wasn't happy with myself, you know, I would never achieve anything, because I would always be complaining about something, feeling sorry for myself. This is not fair. That's not fair. You know what I mean? Why don't I have this? But at the end of the day, we don't get to pick and choose when something's going to take off, or when you're going to feel acknowledged, or when you're going to feel accomplished, whatever it is that you want to get done. You know what I mean? So it's like you can't be there expecting it, because it will never come. But when you let go, it all comes and it pours. And
Right.
that's the logic of the universe, right? And that's the tribal part, see how it kind of could come back together. So
Same thing. Like just the day before yesterday, I was talking to
yeah,
somebody, and she's also in the lockdown, and she was like, I don't know, like I am a very kind of an extrovert kind of a person, she would say, and she's like, now we're just stuck in an environment that we are not meeting anyone, but somewhere I like it, and I think I might not even go back to the normal. And I'm saying,
yeah,
and at that moment I said that, you know what, that's not going to happen, because we are tribal from inside, and we want to be, as humans, we
yes,
have to be surrounded with the other humans,
yes,
and that's how
yes,
we have been evolved, and that's how we have been, grown up. So that
yeah.
cannot somehow, even if you plan to do that, you will not have a choice to do that, you will have to go back.
You have to, because what's going to happen is, you say that now and you think of the pros and the cons. Yeah, there's some good. Ooh, I get to be at home, get my work done, do calls over the internet, whatever your job is, right? Yeah, or like, I don't have to leave my home. But then, if you are in tune with yourself, and you start to feel a certain way, but you have to realize what's happening. So all of a sudden let's just say that, not even this person, another person, subject A, okay? Oh, I love that. I love being like this, the way it's set up, blah, blah, blah. Everything's so easy. I press buttons, everything arrives. I don't have to see people, yada, yada, yada. But all of a sudden, 6 months go by, and that same person is going, ooh, I feel anxiety. I feel depression.
Mhm.
You start to complain about life and stuff.
Yes.
But I'm like, do you not think that this over here had a cause? You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because you're meant to go get fresh air. We are meant to move. Today, it's hard to live like we used to live, because everything's so easy and we're so denatured. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So we have to now pay attention. Now we have to focus. So now it's like, yeah, I have to watch what I eat, because there's too many options that are bad. 100 years ago, all food was good.
Exactly.
The soil, right? The soil was mineralized.
Right.
You ate real food. There's no fake food. Everybody
Mhm.
ate butter, animal products,
Right.
plants, and everybody was fit. When I was obese, I was one of 3 kids obese in my school that were like, 80 pounds to 100 pounds overweight. Now it's like 50%. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You look at the kids these days, and it's not good. You know what I mean? We're creating a sicker nation. You know what I mean? And I think for the first time, don't quote me because I'm not 100% sure, but I think I heard or I read in my book that for the first time in recorded history, our age actually is going backwards. It's always been steadily going up. The life expectancy, lifespan. For the first
Mhm.
time, it's been recorded to go backwards or stand still. And for the first time in actual recording history, this has been documented, our brains have slightly shrunk a little bit for the first time in evolution. Our brains have slowly started growing the whole time, naturally. And it all started when we started eating animal products, fat.
Mhm.
It wasn't even animal products, it was just we needed fat for the brain. Our brain is 60% fat. It
Mm.
needs EPA, it needs DHA, and it's fat, fat, fat. And our brains grew when we ate animal products, because for that reason, because we got the butters, we got the animal fats and all that stuff. And then for the first time, life started becoming easier.
Mm.
Everything's buttons. Everything is the food quality shit. We don't have to go anymore. We can do phone calls. So all of a sudden, you're not growing anymore. You're shrinking. So the
Mhm.
growth is kind of like stop. And it wasn't in Sapiens. I forgot what book I read. I could check on my phone. I'll find out later. But
Out of all the 75 books that you have on your Audible.
yeah, yeah, one of those. But they said, what I mean, we might be facing another extinction. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And this time it won't be a cosmic one where something hits the planet and the weather changes and life can't survive. We're destroying ourselves by denaturing ourselves. You know what I mean? And a lot of the information that I talk about, I call myself a researcher because I don't have a lab. I studied nutrition, and I studied police foundations, policing and stuff. And what I mean, I had to study all this stuff and this information. I can't. Oh my gosh, I don't know where I was going with that for a sec. Someone back me up here. What was I saying?
you
Sorry,
you were saying about that extinction.
pardon me. Oh,
Extinct.
the human extinction, right?
Yeah.
So basically, Oh my gosh, I don't know where I heard some stuff in the background at the store and it kind of
No
threw
worries.
me off. Okay,
That's
so sorry about that.
yeah,
Jeez.
we can come on to this one whenever you
Yeah. It'll
Mhm.
come back to me. It'll come back to me. Go ahead. Sorry, guys.
yeah, no, that's
All
fine.
good, all good.
But bro,
Yeah.
like your information is so much detailed, it's so much
Hmm.
descriptive, and this shows like you just don't read for the sake of just
Yeah.
having a read or just putting another checkbox. You're
Yeah.
actually going in details about it, and I think not many people talk about it. And this is what you're sharing. A lot of people are going to get so much of awareness that what we
Yeah.
Exactly.
are made of, what we should
Yeah.
be doing, and how are we going towards nurturing ourselves or destroying ourselves. The
Yeah.
choice the
Hmm.
choice
It,
is ours.
it's our choice, and I just actually fired my brain up right there. And then the whole thing was, we are denaturing ourselves, right? And the books that I read, that's what I remember. The books that I read, basically, these are people that spend their lifetimes searching these topics. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I figure, why not just study those people? So I call myself like a researcher because I might not have a lab, I might not be able to, see things under a microscope, but I can read about the studies. I can
Yes.
read about the studies. I can read about all the things that are out there. I can read about everything that's out there. And at the end of the day, that's all we have to do. We just have to, I always tell everybody, now we have Google and books. People have platforms to share their information, but back then it was tribal, right? Going back to
Right.
tribal,
Yeah.
we used to respect the elderly.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about that, Sash, at the store one day. You know what I mean? And basically it was about, we had someone that was the leader of the tribe, and they would pass the knowledge on and pass the knowledge on and pass the knowledge on. And today we're discarding these people because we don't need them anymore.
Yeah.
We do need them, and that's the sickening part. We're shipping them off to retirement homes because we're too
Hmm.
busy with our lives. Because the way this
Wow.
environment has been set up, we now have to work 3 jobs or 2 jobs to just survive. Where back then you would have, because of inflation and all this stuff that we can talk about, the whole government stuff that's going on right now with how everything's going up in price, it makes no sense, and we're causing this problem ourselves. But at the end of the day, you know, these people used to pass on our traditions and what to eat and what not to eat, and then
Hmm.
we've replaced them with technology. You see what's happening? We already just got rid of the old people.
Yeah.
It's no joke, and that's
Hmm.
gonna be us,
Yeah.
right? Where you had an importance. You were so like worshipped because you were the life of the clan, of the tribe. Because
Hmm.
without you here, I wouldn't know what I can eat, and I would have to relearn it again. What if I get poisoned? I don't know what to do if I get sick. And then today it's AI, it's computers, it's digital this, digital that.
Hmm.
It's great. Life is easy. You know what I mean? But we have to learn how to stop it right here and still be humans and not dehuman, not live this life that we're like,
Yeah.
stepping away from nature. You know
I
what I mean?
have
And
a
that's the disconnect.
Yeah, I have a
Big
very
Hmm.
disconnect.
when you talked about AI. So I was reading something. So there was a kind of a story to tell like AI. Even if we get a lot of things are happening in the sense of technology, how AI is going to take control of everything, but
Yeah.
what about the empathy? What about having emotion? This is something that only humans and technology cannot mimic that kind of a thing. Just to
Yeah.
give you a little background about this, so there was a lady
Yeah.
who so she wanted to fly to some place, and there was a so like when you go to the ticket counter and you get your ticket, and she asked for like, I'm looking for a first class ticket, and
Yeah.
the flight, but that particular flight did not have first class at all, right?
Yeah.
And she is a premium member and whatever, like entitlement, and she was like,
Yeah.
you know what, I want it. I mean, I don't care, I paid this amount every as a membership. I do that all the time, so you better find me something which is first class. And she said, and that's the human brain sitting, the
Yeah.
person who's sitting on the other side of the ticket counter. And she said, look man, oh, I found a solution. You know what, the whole flight is a first class,
Oh, smart.
just like
I
that.
I
And
love it. What a solution.
what a
There you go.
solution. And it was just like, what she wanted to hear, and she
Yes.
changed it, and her mindset changed. Oh yeah, okay, fine, then give me the ticket.
Yes. You know,
This
what's
is the
crazy?
human brain.
Because that human just averted a problem where if it was with a machine, it would have been like, sorry, no
Right.
first class. And right. And then the person would be like, what do you mean? This is horrible. And then what that just created is anger. It
Yes.
caused anger, it caused resentment, it caused war, disconnect. where we
Right.
can't even we can't solve things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's so another book I want to say is Sapiens was the where we came from, and it kind of leaves off where we're going. He also wrote another book recently and released it, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. And it's so beautiful. It actually, the whole book's on what you just said. And it's about AI and technology, how it can be good and how it can be bad, depending on how you want to use it. Because sometimes if you are born with a bad genetic, chromosome, they can take a device called CRISPR now, technology, right? Find it, pull it out, put a fresh one in, and boom, your problem is gone. They can do that now. They can really do a new sequence for your actual genetic code.
Wow.
It's called CRISPR. Phenomenal machine. It was a Nobel
amazing.
Prize. They just discovered this a few years ago, but I've seen already projects on like a guy made his dog fluorescent. You know what I mean? They took the chromosome.
Interesting.
They took the gene from a glow in the dark jellyfish, and
Ah,
they put it in. So
yes.
all of a sudden now the skin glows. It's crazy. It's crazy. So let's say you're born with a deficiency of some sorts, and it's a life and thing situation where like it's like this baby might die, or this thing, is it a female or male, whatever, can't see. You know what I mean? All of a sudden they take it and they take something, a gene from a hawk, you know what I mean, or something. But then it's going to be the whole problem of like, how far do we go? That's when like we have like mutations. You know what I
Right.
mean? Do rich people get to pick and choose how evolved they get? You know what I mean? Their kids are going to be the best athletes, the best memory. You know what I mean? Well, I want that kid to have, they're going to be designer babies. I want the kid to have blue eyes. I want to be 6 feet tall, and I want to be very athletic. So we're going to give it this and this and this gene, this and this and this gene, remove that and that and that. And boom, $3 million later, $3 million later, you have a perfect baby. What in your eyes is perfect. Right. And then now we're all altering God's creation. You know what I mean? Which is this, we're all God, or I mean, like there's who's someone we look up. Doesn't matter what religion you are. At the end of the day, there is a God. There's a bigger power, and the religions are just a way of kind of I guess hurt our own people. You know what I mean? Like if you're Christian, if you're Catholic, if you're Jewish, it doesn't matter, or Muslim. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's just a way of talking about the message. Don't kill,
Right.
don't hurt, don't cheat, don't steal. Be a good human on this planet. You know what I mean? And that book, it literally talks about our future, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century by Harari. And really good book because it talks about where we're going, and it's already happening. So it's something that I want to kind of touch base with what you just said. And I think everybody should read that book. Two books that are a big yes for me: Sapiens and 21 Lessons for the First Century. It will tell you where we came from and where we're going.
Yeah.
And then how healthy you are going to be is going to be able to how well you're going to be able to maneuver through this life, and are you going to be truly satisfied? Those are my two best books that allowed me to think the way I think, because it gave me the answers to where we came from and what kind of what life's about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm
There's
actually gonna read those books specifically now because they sound like the 21 rule one. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, phenomenal book. And and it got me right away. Like when I get, I'm like in this deep rabbit hole. Basically, like I how it all started is I listened to a freaking podcast. Now it was I forget who was being interviewed, but it was a doctor. It was Dr. Burke, I think, Dr. Burke.
Okay.
And this is at one point in time I was just a trainer. And I studied a little bit of nutrition here and there. Mainstream offer calorie counting, calorie deficits, if it fits your macros, you know what I mean, and all that crap. And then I came across a podcast. He was on YouTube, whatever, doing a podcast, and he started talking about his book. And then I'm like, this sounds interesting. Then I started going to this deep rabbit hole, and I started listening to all these videos, and all these guys were like, kept talking about how they have all these books. So I started reading these books, and I'm like, this makes a lot of sense. So I always recommend books to everybody. You know what I mean? And it's the answers to a lot of things that we have in front of us, but we have to be able to access it.
Exactly.
And,
and you know what? Like, I'm actually okay. This is going to be a little segue question, but just to kind of get into it, the vibes I'm getting from you are more like a genius. Like we all have that genius kind of like everybody's different. Everyone has their own level of I guess abilities. Everyone's their own genius in a way. I'm getting I can definitely get like the intellectual wipes from you right away. I wanted to kind of ask,
Thank you, Ali.
saying that, I wanted to ask, in your opinion, what is the definition of genius? Do you think everyone's born a genius, or how does that work? And I already know, in my opinion, that I think you definitely are a genius, but would you consider yourself a genius in that same meaning?
And what is a genius, by the way? Like, what is your
Yeah,
definition?
you know what I mean? A genius is a really hard word, you know what I mean, to describe, because it's just something that we kind of give a meaning to, you know what I mean? But a genius to me would be someone. See, a genius to me doesn't mean you need to have the answers to everything or whatever. It means to me is a genius to me would be, are you able to disconnect yourself from the presence that you're in and able to, like an omega, you know, versus like an alpha or a beta? Are you an omega where you can kind of, it doesn't matter if you're skillful at something or you're not, you know what I mean? Are you able to lift yourself and to be able to analyze a situation, compassion? See, genius to me would be, are you able to fix or have a solution for a problem? And to be able to do that, all you really need is awareness, you know, the opposite of ego, awareness. You know what I mean? Are you aware of your surroundings? Are you aware of this person's emotions? Are you aware of this thing, of what's going on? Are you aware of the problem? You know what I mean? And if you're aware of it, how are you going to fix it? So then, to be a genius, it just takes work ethic. Because if it comes to you naturally, you know, Stephen Hawking, he's good with physics. You know, you have someone that's good with something else. He was born with it. If someone's good, you know, he's a genius at a sport. That's amazing. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it was a work ethic. No one talks about the work that went into it. I can easily say I've spent 20 to 30, 40, 50 out. I'm talking about thousands of hours. You know what I mean? I don't even count anymore. I stopped counting after 20,000 because I used to keep track, because I used to be so programmed in my brain that I'm like, when you do 10,000 hours of something, you're a master or something. And then if you do 20, you're a genius. You know what I mean? Because you just allowed your brain, your consciousness to absorb some information. That's the genius part, is to be able to realize how to do something and how to evolve yourself by gaining the information about it. Because there's so much confusion and there's so much distraction in our planet. You know what I mean? So just because, you know, you could be a genius at being a escape artist. You could be a genius be a genius of, I think it's just being the master at a craft that you really believe in. And you really want to become something powerful in a sense that you can help people. You know what I mean? Because my things, you know, I get emotional about it too as well sometimes, because like, frick, you know, like my whole thing was to be able to help people. And I just started studying this. I didn't know any of this stuff. You know what I mean? But I knew enough of myself to be able to, maybe that was genius in itself. I knew before reading any books or following anybody online, I knew how to lock myself up in a room and to be able to strip myself, not of clothing, but strip myself of all emotion and all of my all of my thoughts, and being able to analyze it and to be able to learn from myself. So my genius, I guess, was, you know what I mean? It's a hard description for me to describe, but being able to control yourself and wanting to become the best version of yourself.
Just being
It doesn't matter what you do.
like the way
Awareness, because awareness will lead you down to every path that you want to achieve, unless this is sick. You know, I couldn't get this in my teens because I was overweight. I was unhealthy. I was moody. My hormones took over my body. You know what I mean? So at one point in time, there's another, you know, a genius part could be, hey, I don't like the way I live. I know there's a way I could fix myself. I can't listen to other people tell me how to do it because they don't know either. Right. So I had to figure out, I need to learn, you know what I mean? But self-experiments, you know, you have people like Einstein, you know, numbers, physics again. You have other people that are people that can speak really well to bring people together, peaceful geniuses. So genius to me is basically the master of your craft, but you're a master because you allowed yourself to be there. I'm not going to sit here. If you came to me with a health problem, I wouldn't be like, hey, Ali, you know, here's this thing that I heard, you know, go reduce your calories, go exercise more, and you're going to lose weight. I'm going to sit down with you and talk to you about your life. You know what I mean? But I only got to do that because I got to listen to other geniuses and other professionals
Right.
that documented their work. You know what I mean? So long definition, but I can't really describe it in a real
very,
one
very
piece.
perfectly, like whatever you just
Yeah.
said, genius. Like it's
I
very.
agree.
I really like this definition because.
Thank you. Because
It's
you're a genius, Ali. You're a genius. Everybody is. You know.
that's the whole point of his, like, the Inside Out podcast itself.
Yeah.
We have that, we talk about that there is a genius inside of you. It might be dormant, it might be sleeping somewhere, but there is one, and we are going to help you find one by having.
Yeah. Oh, bro, what you just said is so beautiful. Wow, Inside Out, and that message that you just said, because there's a genius living in everybody, but it's muddled and it's wishy-washy and it's suppressed, and it's because our today, before the Darwin theory, right? Competition. You know what I mean? Makes the best of the best of the best of the best. If you lacked, in a sense, in the history, your species would not survive. You know what I mean? So the genius was about survival. So back then, you just had to be a genius to be like, what do I need to do right now to provide and survive? If I see my neighbor die because it was too cold outside, let me create some clothes. You know what I mean? Let me find some fire. Let me encompass an area with some bush to create some shelter, because that's how my brain works. I find solutions for problems. Yeah. So you're right. And that's the genius part. So
it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be.
If Einstein. Someone came and asked me about health, I'll tell them, no, you just have to be aware. You have to be aware and willing to accept, to accept the information and download it into this little thing of your gold brain.
Which is right? Already shrinking, by the way.
It's already shrinking, you know what I mean? But it's something that's here, but a lot of people don't get to use it all. You know what I mean? And we always say 20, the 30%, 1/3 of the brain gets used. No, the whole brain gets used. We just don't access it all the time, because this creation that we're in would not create 75% of a brain that's a dead brain. This brain is firing all day long. There's so many neurons. I think the statistic is if you stretch out the neurons of a human brain, it would span the earth 3 times. I think, don't quote, but I think it's the actual statistic.
I've heard something like that too. Yeah, it's insane how many there are.
Crazy.
Same thing with DNA, like it's insane.
It's crazy. You're right, and it's this intricate system. And we think that we're this metal machine, pretty much, because that's how people treat themselves. They think they can party, not sleep, get fucked up, don't take care of themselves, don't exercise, exercising, everybody thinks it's for losing weight. It's so incorrect. You know what I mean? Exercising is to build more skeletal muscle and to build more tissue on the body, which in return will let you burn more calories because you have more muscle mass, which eats the energy that you consume, which is your mitochondria. So that's your energy power cells. They're actually they're eating the calories for you. The more muscle mass you have, the more food you can eat, so you can sustain this machine. It's like dumping coal into the furnace.
Wow.
You're dumping, right? That's how it works. So if you're skinny, you can't eat as much as another person because you just won't be able to metabolize a lot of the energy until you condition yourself, because there is set weight. There's you can adjust your body, but at the beginning, it's like you can't expect to have a good appetite when you're super skinny, because your body is comfortable. It's comfortable. It doesn't need more energy. So this machine that we have is such an intricate system, you know what I mean, that has evolved. You know what I mean? And once we step away from it, we're done, So
I love that. That was an amazing answer.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And
wait, but it was you guys. Whatever you guys came up with your model, it's beautiful. That's exactly what it is. Everybody has a genius.
Everybody has a genius, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Just that like with and bringing people like you, Artur, like, to be honest, this is what we want to let people also understand and realize that, and have an awareness kind of a thing that, you are genius, and you have to start believing one and be aware that there is something inside of you which you could anyway. It doesn't have to be Einstein level. It could be just like solving a problem for someone.
Exactly.
And maybe
if someone
starts with yours.
And if someone else was like learning something from you, that goes a long way. Like the fact that you came on today and like what you said, I took away so much fucking value, dude. I learned so much. Yeah, pretty much. He just like mind fucked me with that information, and I'm just walking away with that, because now I have all this knowledge, and I can't wait to go try it out. Because like you said, not just about inside the gym, what you eat, how the biomes work. That nobody talks about that to me, right?
Yeah.
Like I go to Good Life, I talk to the coaches, they're like, yeah, just eat healthy and do cardio. That's it.
Yeah.
But nobody talks about the details that you mentioned today. So the fact that you went into all that, sorry.
Yeah, because to be able to talk about details, you have to have, because like, let's say when I was a trainer in the past, I was just one-sided, and I couldn't really tell people the answers to things when people asked me, because I never knew them. But to be able to ask questions and then be able to answer them, you must have to know where we come from, and who we really are. So to solve something, because our society today is so reactive versus preventative. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like we're reacting to problems versus asking the right questions. And it's like, why is this even happening?
Exactly.
And that's never asked. So you go to a trainer, they're like, well, this is what you're going to do because you look a certain way, or this is your goal. But in the end, it's like, but wait a minute, Ali, sit your ass down and talk to me about your life.
Yeah.
And let's find out what you're doing wrong, and not essentially wrong, but just like, how can we optimize yourself so that you can fulfill your life, so you can feel amazing and not have any kind of like interruptions or any doubt or any kind of implications to block you. Instead of you going like this your whole life, here you go, Ali, here's your path. Now your job is just to go do it. And that will be mindset, right? And that's the whole goal. That's the genius. Let's bring that back. That's the genius about life. You know, it's equal to a certain extent, because some people have it easier, but we all have the same opportunity for now, until CRISPR takes over. But we all have this, right? Because then it's going to be unfair. You're gonna have super babies. That's the ethics part of life. That's what he talks about in the book. It's like, when do we draw the line? And he goes, for the medical side, to heal a person that has been disabled to be functioning, or has Tourette's or has a problem with their body, then yeah, let's fix them. But when a perfectly healthy baby could be born, and now you're altering it just because out of your own ego, you want this little super baby, you know what I mean? Then it's a problem.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing as well. I think that's going to be an interesting concept, talking about like social economic issues, because now we have a bigger disparity amongst the poor and the rich, because the richer people, or the rich parents, can have their kids be super intelligent, let's say, work in like amazing companies, get scholarships. Well, the kids that weren't given this advantage are going to end up working twice as hard, but there's going to be a massive gap now. We already know there is a massive gap because of certain opportunities.
It's happening, but the real question, Ali, is to ask, you know what I mean? So these kids have been given the perfect opportunity, because let's just say maybe the connections, the wealth, the money, and here you go, son or daughter, boom, there you go. And then you have this other side of it where, here's the environment. Yes, I don't have the money. Yes, I don't have this to give you, but I'm here to do my job, make sure that you have a life so you can survive. But then the real question is, is our environment so fucked up through food, through the machines that we're getting, and we're all fucked up because the brain now is dead. Kids aren't exploring, they're not making mistakes in the real world, they're just all digitally, right?
Yeah.
So is it because our environment's more fucked up, where these kids don't have the opportunity to explore and make themselves, where these kids are just like, here you guys go, boom, go this way? But both kids, because the kid that's been giving everything doesn't mean he has to fulfill that either.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But so I think what you're saying, the gap is expanding, and it is expanding because our environment is so fucked up these days, that's so denatured, that these kids are not even paying attention that they can become this better version of themselves, because
100%.
It's unfair to them, because they're growing up sicker and not, when I see a kid, I feel so bad, because I look at myself when I was me, when I was younger and I was obese and overweight, man, I had probably so many opportunities and so many things that I would have never been who I am today, but that I could have missed, because it's like I never loved myself. I looked in the mirror and I cried. I never walked around with confidence. So I never got the girlfriend. I never got invited to the parties because I was quiet, And that quietness, though, is where I became an expert at what I do today, because I got the time to reflect, where I wasn't distracted. But that took a certain type of mind, I'm not saying I'm special. Nobody really, we're all special. You know what I mean? But what was important with my life is I actually woke up at a certain time and I said, okay, well, if I'm being rejected, let me work on myself. So obviously if I don't fit in and I'm present, was it because I didn't fit in because they didn't like me, or was it because I didn't like myself? Yeah. And I didn't like myself. So how the fuck are they going to like me? How are they going to invite me? If I was like, younger version of myself now, and I'm a life of the party, I'm happy, I'm talkative, of course I'm going to get invited. But at the time, you don't know what's happening.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now I can look back and see that, right? And that's the incredible part about life. At one point in time, you have to be able to reflect. So if you're doing something wrong, or you don't like the results of something, or if you're not getting those goals that you want to get, even though you have the right mindset and you want to get there, maybe sometimes you have to sit back and stop playing the victim and be like, maybe I need to change myself. Why is this same result happening? Why am I failing? Why am I still not getting invited? Why doesn't anybody want to talk to me? Why can't I get a girlfriend? Why am I not happy with myself? You know what I mean? And that's the biggest concern for me, for a lot of people, that they won't have the opportunity to do that, because it takes a lot of effort. You know what I mean? Because it takes the sacrifice of, not growing up and having that, hey, the best friends growing up, or growing up and being invited to the things and the events, because those are all social things. Because in reality, everybody should have an opportunity, right? Every kid in the tribe got to go hunt back then. Everybody got to go work as a team and go and gather food. You know what I mean? So we could all survive. But how would you feel, or how would that person feel all of a sudden if they were kind of, you can't come with us today, you're too slow, you can't come with us because you're fucking huffing and puffing every minute. Survival, right? And that's the scary part, that I feel what you said, the gap, and it's going to happen a lot more. I think the more we are denatured and the more we're taken away from our present life, the worse it's going to be. And we're going to have a sicker society, because that's going to lead to worse brain, worse self-confidence. You won't be able to be grateful for anything.
Exactly.
And until you or me or any of us, that's why it's our duty to pass this message on, until we will sit someone down and tell them, hey, you are an amazing person, but you need to do some changes. You know what I mean? Because we're not meant to be sick. We're not meant to be sleep deprived. We're not meant to be malnutrition. That's not how our genetics were designed. Our genetic code has been replicated as a survival mechanism. Darwin's theory, you're strong, you replicate, and you survive.
Exactly.
And you survive. You know what I mean? So that's I think a lot of people won't even get the opportunity. And if they do, they're gonna keep passing on their pain to the next generation and next generation, where we will slowly alter, not in our time, maybe not in 500,000 years. Some point in time, it's going to alter, where it's going to change again. And the things that we see in movies, the predictions, how there's a master race and there's all the slaves, and but there's the odd person in the group that stands out and is the hero and then wakes everybody back up. That shit is happening every day. You know what I mean? It is happening every day. And it's just going to get either worse or better. And then that's going to be our own perception, how we want to think of it. And that's the whole thing about mental brain. If you're a negative person, you're going to see, oh, this is it. This life sucks. This is not fair. Or you're going to be the strong person, be like, I need to change. I'm going to learn, because I want to make myself better. And then once you're a good human, you're going to also say, hey, let me teach you. Let me show you how to make yourself better. And that's the whole thing, where we need to start teaching one another and each other, and becoming better people in life. So it's crazy. It's so much to talk about. I love this. This is like,
and also I knew that our conversation would go in deep, and that is why we were pretty much aware of that. And this is the kind of information that we also want to share with people, that the kind of stuff that you bring from your experience, and the awareness level, the consciousness level. And I think people need to be a little more cognizant about their actions, their choices that they're making, awareness that they should have. So just before we are we are almost moving towards the end of our
that was long.
but that's fine, bro, because this is what, right, like I said, what is important to be talked about will go over time. So that's not a
Of
problem.
course. Yeah, I love you guys.
Yeah. So last question that I have for you, this is like the most, the ending question.
Yes.
Just imagine, Arthur, you don't, so like you're 99 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, and there is no record of anything that you have done in your life, any
Yes.
record, and that's burnt or whatever. There is nothing. And, what life lessons would you give to your grandchildren? What three life lessons would you give?
I love it. One for sure, love yourself. You know what I mean? But the true love, not the message that mainstream gives you, that you can be overweight and you can be a certain type of person and you should still love yourself. That's the wrong message. We should love ourselves regardless.
Yes.
That's one. Two, love everybody. You know what I mean? Because once you can love yourself, then you can love everybody. And love everybody meaning
100%.
Find your people. Find your people. You know what I mean? Because you will truly enjoy life so much more once you love doing what you're doing, because it would just give you this happiness that you can never replicate. You know what I mean? So because you're gonna need other people for you to achieve what you want to achieve, and that's true happiness, enlightenment, where you are satisfied truly with your life that you've lived. Because you're gonna look back. I'm gonna look back at 99. I'm gonna look back at 120, and I'm like, holy shit, this is it. And I'm super grateful for that. And then three, don't ever lose yourself. And that's a big one. And what I mean by don't ever lose yourself is like, don't ever lose the human part of yourself, where money, media, and everything else takes over you, where your life is just driven by materialistic things. Because if you don't have love of yourself, of others, and the third one, which is you lose yourself and you lose the human part of it, you are going to live in a world of slavery to your brain and to the system. And you will never, ever be happy. And then you're going to blink your eyes and wake up one day and be like, my life is over. So until then, if you want a true happiness, those would be my three main things. Everything else is extra. The wife, the kids, you know what I mean? Everything else. But those are the main things, because when you can get those three things right, then everything else that you wish for and truly want, not necessarily need, maybe want and need. It's not a bad thing to want things. Absolutely. But you have to have real truth to yourself, honesty, respect, dignity, integrity, and self affirmations, where you are good enough, and that's life. And then everything else that you want
is an extra.
Is just going to be beautiful, and it's going to be extra. And then you truly will die, pass on to another round of life, because you're just going to disappear and puff away. The soil is going to eat you up. The bugs in the soil are going to eat you, because living organisms. They're going to regurgitate you back into this planet, and you're going to be a new species. And you might like it, or you might not like it. You know what I mean? But you're going to come back as something, because that's how you imagine, right? You die, you get eaten by the dirt, pretty much, organisms, and you're going to be shot back out because animals are going to eat you, and then they're going to be eaten. So your soul will never die. But to be happy, you got to hit those three things. Those would be my three lessons to give to the planet.
That's really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you. I love this. I can't wait to see you at the store. Ali, when you come down here, you got to come check me out, bro.
I got to talk to you in person more, man. I think I might just get coaching from you, because this is fucking mind blowing.
Yeah. If you have questions, let me know. Yeah.
I will, man. Thanks a lot.
Dude, you're awesome too, man. I appreciate this. Is the first time meeting you online, obviously, but just to refresh everybody's minds, we are in 2021 COVID days. It's crazy, right? And living down here, like, just to finish things up too, because I know you guys got to go. But in Toronto, it's been a really hard battle for the right mindset. But we all can do it. You know what I mean? We just have to keep going. So thank you guys for having me too. Appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing yourself, man.